going to ask people to take their seats. And I will, Rhonda is. Yes, we have the form. Good, okay. And do we have our online participants? Okay. When we get to that portion. All right, great. Well, so welcome everybody to the June 4th, 2026 meeting. I'm Sarah Bagley. It's funny that that's in the notes. That I forget, but okay, I'm Sarah. Just some days. Chair of the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission. We are starting this meeting at 7:06. And our administrator has confirmed we have an in-person quorum. The first order of business is to address the electronic participation requests. One is from Justine Underhill from Falls Church for a medical reason on the advice of her doctor, but I also would love to just share that medical reason is her beautiful new baby, Lily. She was also born on my birthday, so. And so, thank you. And then we also have
next to each other.
That's right. We have Rashna Sizemore Heiser has requested electronic participation from Fairfax County for a medical reason as she is recovering from a back injury. Could I have a motion to approve Commissioners Sizemore Heiser and Underhill's request to participate remotely? Second. Right. For Rhonda's sake, the motion is from Ms. Coffey and the second from Ms. Culture. Sure. Any further discussion on those items? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, those pass unanimously and they are free to participate moving forward on the record. Welcome, everybody. Tonight we have WMATA General Manager, CEO Randy Clark with us. We look forward to hearing from him and engaging with him on all the metro topics that I know there will be lots of interest in. We will also be recognizing Darian Flowers tonight for his service to NVTC and WMATA. Mr. Flowers is not quite here yet, so we might take an item out of order just to keep moving. We also have several actions on the consent agenda and for VRE as well as our usual reports. As I mentioned, we're going to move a few things around tonight. Given some travel constraints, we're going to take the VRE CEO report earlier in the meeting so that Ms. Cho can head out a bit earlier. And then Mr. Flowers has arrived. We will handle his recognition, but we'll handle the VRE action items at their usual spot later in the meeting. Two other quick announcements I wanted to make. Our July 2nd meeting is all virtual, so join in from wherever. It's not an invitation to skip. We still very much need you there and we need you on camera. So I just wanted to say that here while we all can see each other, that's part of our electronic participation rules is to vote and to be considered present, you have to be on camera. So if you can make your plans accordingly for your virtual participation. The other item is, I know last month we had challenges with the audio for those participating remotely or watching at home. I understand those have been resolved, but I would encourage everybody to keep your voices up today for those participating at home. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our Executive Director, Caitlin Price, for any public comments.
And so, Madam Chair, we actually did not receive any public comments this week, so we can move along the agenda.
Okay, keeping it moving then. I don't see Mr. Flowers yet, so I think we are going to, if I can invite up VRE CEO Katie Cho to give us her report. And as I said, we'll do the action items later. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the flexibility and going a little bit early. For those of you I haven't spoken to recently, I just yesterday returned from Seoul, South Korea. So I'm a little slightly jet lagged, so give me a little grace here, please. I was invited by the Construction Management Association of Korea to provide comments at their annual conference on the value of construction management on owners' outcomes and the project outcomes related to quality, safety, and post-construction operations and management. I used as a case study for this, one of the case studies I used is the Lou facility, VRE's Lou facility, and particularly looking at outcomes for post-construction operations. And I will say that all of the international construction managers who were there from the Construction Management Association of Korea, the Construction Management Association of Japan, and the International Construction Project Managers Association were incredibly impressed with the Lou facility and the work that VRE is doing, and more broadly, the work on construction management in the United States. And so it was a great way of just exchanging best practices and learning from each other. Moving on to more specific VRE topics, we have in the last month remained consistently around 8,700 riders daily. This is obviously a drop from our high at the beginning of 2025. So we are, the good news is that we have leveled off at this point. So now we're hoping that we stay stabilized and can start increasing our ridership. So this is, I think our period of moving around hopefully has stopped. The on-time performance was 65% in April. This is extremely low, under our target. It was driven primarily though by CSX construction. The CSX construction is an annual program, something we do expect. What we did not expect this year was that there were 4 crews working simultaneously. There typically is only 1, so there was an extensive amount of work that they were doing. And it was primarily taking place on track 2, which is the track that we most often operate on. So it had much more of an impact on us than their typical annual work does. We are very supportive of their annual work. I don't want this to seem anyway like a criticism. This is necessary maintenance, is necessary safety work. But we do have to work with the operational impacts. The work did take place overnight, but there were some days that had late clearing crews. We had a couple times that we had difficulty with communications with the engineer in charge or the employee in charge, which caused delays with our trains operating through the work zones. And also the way that the work happens is they do the work, and then there's a speed restriction that's put in place for a certain amount of time after the work is completed, which also impacts our schedules and other sort of everyone operating over the track. So it creates additional congestion and delays. Good news is it's completed, and all of the speed restrictions have been lifted. So we are hoping to be over the hump on the CSX work. This past weekend, we completed the second of 2 work weekends at the Alexandria station to place the jump spans for the King and Commonwealth bridges. We now have completed 6 of the 9 jump spans. We have 1 more weekend worth of work to be completed. We also, in those 2 weekends, completed the temporary platform between tracks 1 and 2. That allows us to use track 1 for the first time ever at Alexandria station. So we now have 3 operable tracks at Alexandria, which has really increased the flexibility for both VRE and Amtrak operating at the station. The traffic management plan logistics worked very well over both of those weekends. And I will say, as did the communications with the community, we had very few complaints from the community, and both the pedestrian and the vehicle traffic worked well with the closures under the bridges. We did, though, have some lessons learned in the first weekend. We ended up having to run what we're calling an S+ schedule. So it's a reduced schedule, but not fully reduced. And for 2 additional days, obviously not what we wanted. So we have now planned for that. We've looked at the contractor schedules. We planned for some additional reduced schedule days. We have required the contractor to increase their supervision grade. And so we have replaced we're working our way through our system in our stations now in order to upgrade those PIDs. Fireworks trains, really excited about the bringing the fireworks trains back. It's been about a decade since we have run fireworks trains. The tickets are on sale now, so please get your tickets. Encourage all of your neighbors to get tickets. You can find information on the ticket sales at www.vre.org on our website. The tickets are $20 for an adult and $10 for children under the age of 12. Everyone needs a ticket. So this is not a situation where you can just bring your kids. They do need a ticket because we have limited seats and capacity, obviously, on the two trains that we're running. We have one on the Fredericksburg line, one on the Manassas line. They'll be making limited stops along the line, and they will be dropping passengers at both L'Enfant and Union Station. So this is also the first time fireworks trains have served L'Enfant. It's the best access to the mall, so this will be a good improvement over previous service. Last thing I just wanted to note is we got an email today that the Council of Governments has put a code orange air quality alert in place for tomorrow. Their recommended precautions include taking transit and not driving. So please encourage all of your friends, family, and constituents to take VRE tomorrow as an air quality measure. Happy to take any questions.
Oh, thank you for the report and for making it back here. Any questions or comments for Ms. Cho about VRE? Yeah,
I will say the work by Alexander Station was really well done. The disruption was managed very efficiently. I bike down there basically every day to get to the metro station to go into DC, and did have to veer a couple of times, but by and large, y'all kept it.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
I would just highlight too, I had a chance to meet up. Dallas Richards was doing a tour with CTV at the station, sort of showing off. I think someone was there as well. I had just lucky enough that I was like around the corner as they came through. So I came by and was able to talk about the work and the improvements that the bridge changes are having. And it was kind of buried in all the information she shared, but I did just want to uplift. I mean, that track one in 32 years of VRE has never been a functioning part of the system. So that is a significant, addition to service possibilities and to just allowing more flow of trains through the area. So didn't want that to kind of get lost in all the other news in there. So I guess if there's no other comments or questions, we will let you get some sleep. And with that, we're gonna move on then, and we're gonna back up then a little bit. Welcome, Mr. Flowers.
I apologize for my tardiness, Madam Chair.
No, there's no worry. We're glad you could be here. Thank you so much. You are here just in time for us to recognize you. So we're gonna back up on our agenda a little bit and formally say goodbye to Darian Flowers and recognize his service with NVTC as a principal board member on the WMATA board. We're gonna have a resolution of commendation here. While his tenure as the Commonwealth appointee on the WMATA board was brief, we thank Mr. Flowers for his service. As you may know, the winter and spring are important times for getting WMATA's budget over the finish line. As we all saw here so quickly, Mr. Flowers brought a deep appreciation and thoughtfulness to his work, quickly grasped complex governance and funding topics, and ensured Virginia's interests were voiced and well represented at the WMATA board. We only got to know him here at NVTC for a little bit, but the good news is that on May 13th, U.S. Department of Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy appointed Mr. Flowers to the WMATA board as a federal appointee. So I just wanted to sort of thank you for your initial service on the WMATA board and congratulate you on your ongoing service. It was a pleasure to have you here with us, and you jumped right in and really participated, and that was appreciated. And I'm glad you enjoyed the experience enough to do it again for a second time. Any other comments or before I ask for a motion?
So yeah, just to reiterate a couple things. Darian was a fantastic board member from Virginia, and I know he's going to be a fantastic board member, the feds as well. So, and I want to thank you personally for accepting the federal role. That's a really good decision made by this administration. So thank you for doing this.
And Mr. Flowers, would you like to make any comment?
Yeah, no, Madam Chair, I'll be brief, and just to say is that, one, thank you to all of you on the NVTC. Like you said, while my tenure here was short, it wasn't a long time, but hopefully it was a good time. I really do want to thank each of you for being wonderful colleagues and the opportunity that we had to work together to carry out Virginia's interests here on the WMATA board. In particular, though, I do want to thank my colleagues who served with me on the WMATA board from Virginia, in particular, Walter Alcorn. Walter, thank you. I can't say how much I appreciate that you welcomed me as a colleague. The people of Fairfax County are well served by your service, and I'm excited to continue on in working with you in this new capacity. Kenneth and Matt, thank you. Thank you for being fantastic alternates, representing the interests of not only your constituents, but the Commonwealth. Thank you to the fantastic WMATA management team, represented by our wonderful general manager, the best general manager in transit. Thank you, Randy, and for all of your.
Good to have you back.
The weeks. But I'd be remiss if I did not thank the fantastic NVTC staff, led by our fantastic executive director, Kate Mattice, but in particular, Jen and Adam and all of the staff across the jurisdictions who are truly the unsung heroes of our transportation system here in the Commonwealth in the Northern Virginia area. They are fantastic counselors to me, and so I know that all the commissioners probably feel the same way. And so thank you to all of you for your service to making sure that this system functions to the best of its abilities. And I look forward to working with all of you in this new capacity, yes, making sure that we continue to have a fantastic, America's Metro. So thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, sir, for your service. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution of commendation for Darian Flower. All right, so we've got a motion by Mr. Alcorn, second by Mr. Letourneau. Any further discussion? Cinnamon.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I would also just like to convey thank you on behalf of the Commonwealth. You stepped in as the Secretary's designation, and it was wonderful to work with you over those few months. I've already told you I'm glad we'll continue to work together on the VPRA board. So he's a man of service. He keeps saying yes when asked to help the Commonwealth, but really appreciate the opportunity to work together and you looking out for the state's interests. So
Thank you, Maria. Appreciate it.
All right, well, seeing no other comments, I'm gonna first actually, I'm gonna offer all those in favor.
Aye.
And Ms. Sizemore, your vote?
Yes, aye.
And Ms. Underhill?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes unanimously, and if you wouldn't mind coming over, we can present you with a little token, the photo.
Oh, no.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'll hold the, right? Yeah, great.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
Of course, thank you. No, exactly. See you.
No, because you are.
Thank you all. So I'll be.
See you next week.
Okay, so now we're gonna return to agenda item 3, which is the minutes of our May 7th, 2026 meeting. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes? There's a motion. Is I got a second. Any further discussion on the minutes? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any one abstention? Your tone is 2 abstentions from different. Thank you. And then
Aye.
thank you. And Ms. Sizemore Heiser.
Aye.
Great. All right, minutes are approved. Moving on to our consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. They include the annual certification letter for receipt of certain Metro documents, a marketing contract for the Blue and Yellow Lines construction, and our electronic participation policy, which was required to be approved annually, and my understanding has not actually changed. We just have to re-adopt it each year. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Delegate Reed and a second by Supervisor Briskman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Underhill
That's good.
Aye.
and Ms. Sizemore Heiser.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes unanimously and we are on to the big show. We are excited once again to have Metro's General Manager Randy Clark here tonight to share where things stand with WMATA today in its 50th year. And where it's headed in the future. We appreciate the 60+ year partnership that MVTC has with WMATA. There are a lot of things to celebrate since your last visit. Ridership is up, safety metrics are going in the right direction. The budget envisions an ambitious rail modernization program. But we are a highly interested crowd here at MVTC. And as your local funding partners here in Virginia, and every single one of our jurisdictions has a Metro rail service and bus service, we are excited to hear from you this evening. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to WMATA Board Member Walter Alcorn to introduce Mr. Clark.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So I think everybody has this in front of them. It has a lot of the highlights of what Metro accomplished in 2025. And I'm just going to flag a couple of them because it directly relates to Randy's performance. Basically, we were the #1 transit system in the year last year. We have, you know, when Randy was brought on as general manager, Supervisor Letourneau was on the board. Things were a little tough. I think for those of us that were here at the time, you know, on this commission, you know, you can remember we were just coming out of the pandemic. We couldn't run the 7,000 line train. I mean, it was a tough time. There were a lot of challenges, obviously, longer term challenges, short term challenges. We were looking at everything at the time. Randy's come in and really turned the system around. You know, we're now again being recognized by peers, by the APTA, the Trade Association, but we're also getting customer feedback and actually satisfaction ratings highest that they have ever been in the history of WMATA. So, and there are a lot of reasons for that, but the biggest reason that I can point to is this guy. So I would really look forward to the conversation, but I'm looking around the room, you know, there are so many of us in the local government side that have really based much of our land use around transit and really our economic future in transit to a large extent. And then also, you know, this area is the economic engine of the Commonwealth by far, and much of that is powered by transit. So no pressure, you know, to keep things going, but clearly this is something that's really important to everybody I know in this room, and very much appreciate you doing it. I look forward to Q&A as well. So take it away, Ray.
Well, thank you, board member Alcorn. So listen, we are a team and we have 13,000. I'm really lucky. I have 13,000 teammates and a great board and former board members and all of you, right? Like Metro is a system that belongs to all of us, and people like me hopefully don't go too fast, but come and go. And Metro is bigger than all of us. It's bigger than any person, it's bigger than any institution, and it is the backbone of our region. And it's what makes a lot of our life experiences come together. People meet people on Metro, the economic development stuff, special events, economic generation, all of those types of things. So when Metro is performing well, it makes life here better. And when it's not performing well, it makes life less good or more difficult. The other thing is we take a lot of pride that we live in the fishbowl. And the pressure on Metro is unlike any other transit system. I worked up at the MBTA in Boston. I used to think that was the center of the earth. That's the old joke at Boston. Katie knows she worked there. The old joke at Boston is you believe you're the center of the earth in Boston, then you don't go anywhere to prove that that's the center of the earth. In New York, you think you're sitting here and you go around the world telling everyone you live in New York, and that's why you send the world. But the pressure on us is really unlike anything else in transit. A small thing, what we would consider small, could end up being tweeted about by 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, a secretary, a diplomat, national media people ride our system every day. Everything is just amplified. So I will tell you, the intensity, borderline anxiety of staff, especially at the senior level, is much higher. But I personally love the pressure because the pressure means that everyone that lives here, we get a better system. And that's a big deal. We all get a better system because we have to perform so high. And we really take a lot of pride in that. So I really just want to thank Board Member Alcorn's leadership. We have two great alternates that, get thrown in from time to time. And then Commissioner, my former board member Letourneau was just rock steady board member, and just really appreciate all his service. And it's good to see that he doesn't go far from the stuff that he was involved in. I guess I'm supposed to use this, Kate? That looks like a recorder.
That's it. It's.
Oh, okay. What, will you move to the next slide? So,
We will move that for you.
hey, thank you. I'll make this as quick as you want me to, and then happy to take any questions. A couple things, if we go to the first slide, I want to highlight. It is Metro's 50th anniversary. We've had 7 billion customer trips on the system, and we're very proud. I see that many of you got the pin. If you didn't get one, Greg will make sure you get one. But it is a big pride thing for us to celebrate. So we do call ourselves America's Metro System. Again, that fishbowl, but we believe the system that the most amount of unique Americans experience to be, especially on what most people call subways. Think about the school trips that come here, visitors all over the country. New York is obviously a much bigger system, but unique actual amount of Americans that may only ever be on the subway once, probably are going to do it on the Metro system in here locally. So we take an enormous amount of pride in that. We will be doing some stuff on the National Mall. Obviously, there's the big American State Fair that's going to be happening from late June for about 3-week period. More information coming soon, but Metro will be very prominent on the National Mall, and I think hopefully you'll all be able to go and see a really important legacy. Metro, we're the system that was the first accessible system in the United States, and that is a big part of American pride that we're the place that during 9/11 stayed open and evacuated during major fear and anxiety where people didn't know what would happen. We're the place where Rosa Parks, when she passed, took our historic Rosa Parks bus, went to BWI and transported her to lay in state at the Rotunda. And then think of all the First Amendment activities. Metro has played an instrumental role in American history, and that's what we want to reflect right now. If we go to the next slide, I'm going to go through these relatively quickly. You've probably seen this before. Something I'm super proud of is, as former Alcorn talked about, your economic development priorities in your localities are what we care about. We want you to be very successful. We're not a developer. We don't have our own tax authority. Some of us think that might be a good idea, but it doesn't seem to be working out. We want to grow your economies, grow your population, and grow your economic well-being and quality of life. Within a half a mile of Metro makes up almost 30% of the entire tax base of this region, let alone then the sales tax and everything else. Where Metro goes, the community grows. It's very clear where that happens. And then obviously, then there's all the congestion stuff. People are worried about affordability. You can't talk about affordability without talking about transit. Transit is the actual natural, it's the OG, if you will, of affordability, right? We make things affordable. So people go from a 2-car family to a 1, or a 1-car family can live car free. And then gas prices and things like that. If we go to the next slide, please. Impact by the numbers. Again, board member Alcorn mentioned this. A couple things I want to highlight here. Really proud of. Customer satisfaction should be a way we rate a lot of government, quite frankly, and what the people think about us. So we hit historic highs, 83% on rail, and very high, just south of that on bus, which is the highest we've ever rated with our customers. So I look at that a lot, very heavily on a daily basis. Obviously, it's like Yelp, right? We want to perform very high, and we want people to tell us where we're performing and tell us where we're not. And our job is to be open, be agile, and respond to those complaints. Now, every complaint might not be equal. Some complaints might be sometimes a little irrational, But we do have to be open-minded and learn where we can improve. Also was mentioned, and this is really important, last year was the lowest crime year in the history of Metro, and this year crime is lower than last year. So again, try to repeat, the lowest crime we've ever had in the history of the system. It is fundamental in transit. If it's not safe, lots of people will not ride. And it has to be safe, i.e. the wheels are gonna not, move and have a derailment, and it needs to be safe where I'm not worried about a person stabbing me on the train or kind of that type of behavior. We've solved both of those. We've won a lot of industry awards the last few years. We just won some of the bus conference just hosted about a month ago. We're really, really proud of our public safety record. There is never an end to that, though. We're never gonna stop. One assault on an employee or a customer is too many. But I think we should be feeling pretty good that when we have about 1 million people a day, how little crime actually happens. And it's an extension of the community itself, obviously, right? And so what we're trying to do is work with all of our partners, and all of you are either in local or state government. Can't say enough about the partnerships we have between local and state law enforcement working together. On the ridership, the next slide, a couple things I want to highlight there. We continue to see growth in rail. Bus has definitely gone down. We believe most all the ridership on bus reduction is related to the economy. We've lost over 100,000 jobs in this region in the last year. As you all know, it's been a pretty tough economic year. Very significant in the hospitality industry specifically, and bus plays a pretty high proportion role to people in the hospitality industry. So we are running a generally good bus system. We want to continue to improve it. Where people want improvement on bus, hands down, they want more service. Frequency, and that's where we're going to continue to work. On the rail side, though, it continues to grow. Just when we think we've kind of flattened, we still get a couple more spikes. Happy to report the last 2 days, we've had about 1 million people a day on the system. So it's about 600,000 rail, 400,000 on bus the last 2 days. Today looks very strong as well. Weekend ridership continues. We'll do some construction outage weekends, and we'll still do 1 million combined between bus and rail on the weekends. Weekends are becoming borderline challenging to manage our maintenance windows with ridership. Some events recently, like last week, for people that like Porch Fest. There's a big one in Georgia Petworth last weekend. It was the busiest day at that station in 6 years because of Porch Fest. Weather was good, and people like to be outside doing some stuff. So we have a lot of that type of activity happening. The special events are really part of that generation as well. So last on this slide I want to highlight is fare enforcement and fare evasion. So we've been very clear, big campaign that fares are required to run the service. And if and until all the region comes together and says, don't worry, we're willing to give Metro a higher subsidy, then we are going to do everything we can to manage fares. That is the law, and people will follow the law. That means we have to be really good in our systems. Our fare box readers were not as good as they should have been, so we did a lot of work. That was really much better uptime, system performance. We also had to create programs to help people that I think we all agree, certain people in society sometimes need a hand up. We created our Metro Lift program, where if you're on SNAP, you automatically get 50% reduced fare. We would ask you, if you have your networks, a lot of you have newsletters and other ways with your constituents. We need more people in our region that are eligible to sign up. We would much rather someone have 50% reduced fare than pay no fare and get citations and court dates and everything else. We know people need some hands up from time to time. Let's help them. A weekly bus pass at Metro is $13.50. So when people talk about affordability, it's an unlimited bus pass for $13.50. If you go to a Nats game, that's less than a beer. I'm just trying to put it in perspective, right?
Problem.
Yeah, I'm not gonna solve that problem. But just in perspective, the salary you just had was probably 14, right? And just in perspective, a healthier version. But just in perspective, we do offer very affordable transportation. And again, with Metro Lift, 50%. We also have senior programs, disability programs, and youth programs. So we'd ask all of you, you have a big network, they're your constituents. We want people to sign up and use the discounted programs that are there for them. At the bus side, there's too much fare evasion, and we are enforcing very heavily and doing a lot of education campaign. And I'm happy to say we'll have some more information next week at our board meeting, but the trends, just within 7-8 days, have already seen some really good results of people starting to pay more. The next slide is, we always just put one, depending on what jurisdiction we're in, but Virginians are returning to Metro Rail. And we just wanted to really highlight it continues to grow. That averages about 110,000 people, give or take a day on the rail side out of Virginia. But each day is a little different. I will tell you, last weekend, sorry, not last week, the weekend before was Memorial Day. If I remember, look at the ridership report, it was the highest day ever at Dulles, and it's the highest 4-day weekend we've ever had out there as well. So the airports continue. I think we had over 8,000 people on one day at Dulles, which is pretty great. DCA is obviously always very busy. On a normal day, we might move almost 20,000 people to the Pentagon. So, there is a lot of activity, especially in Northern Virginia, related to the system. Next slide. And this is part of the reason why, and I want to thank, we've been out doing some celebrations. I see Supervisor Bierman was out when we did the event in the falls. It was so good. There's so much potential in Northern Virginia to continue to do really smart development around transit. Some of you are working very hard on that. We appreciate that. If there's ways we can work better with you all, we want to do that. I know Supervisor Stork is very interested in Huntington. We would like to see, if you have a spare missile, we can knock that garage down. We would like to see that opportunity come together as well. We have members from Alexandria here. Braddock Road is a great example that we want to move on. And that process is actually, we've already gone through the public hearing process there. The one over by Eisenhower, at some point, that'll be the next. So there's lots of examples around Northern Virginia. We want to lean in with you. It's a tough market, but I hope that what the message is, we want to partner and try to make these things happen. So I just wanted to include this slide. Some upcoming events I want to highlight that are pretty big. There'll be some FIFA stuff going on that, and they're gonna do a big thing on the mall. I guess if the US is playing a big team, we probably expect some fairly decent crowds. People are probably aware that there's a UFC match at the White House on the 14th. We'll be supporting the customers at that event. The next thing up is the Great American State Fair. That's, as I mentioned, about a 3-week event. Anticipated to have very large crowds. July 4th we're anticipating to be a very big July 4th. It's a Saturday. It's going to be a little later than normal. And I think more details are coming out on that. But we expect this to be a very, very, very big July 4th for us. July 4th is always kind of a Super Bowl for us. It is the hardest day to manage too, because if we have 500,000 people, we have to manage most of that around 3 or 4 stations. So a normal, say a Monday is 500,000, well, that's the entire system. And somehow we got to manage that around. So we'll be open very late. It's a Saturday. We'll be open till 2 a.m. and we'll be moving a lot of people. The Grand Prix that's going to be in August, we expect potentially is going to be a bigger ridership day than July 4th. We expect that to be a big local event. It's very unique, right? The idea of race cars around the national capital is, I think, and it's towards school vacation. So we expect very large crowds, and that's the only way to get there is Metro. And then the last one I want to highlight, if you're not a football fan, next April, the NFL is hosting the draft on the National Mall. And the commissioner mentioned they believe crowds of over 1 million people. So that'd be basically, we're going to host a Super Bowl on the National Mall next April. And how's that going to work? Obviously Metro. So again, back to the Fishbowl, these are very big events. The July 4th is actually designated a national special security event. We do a lot of these things. We coordinate with all of our partners very closely. Up next, if we can do the slide, let's talk about some budget stuff. The board just recently passed our FY27 budget, but also our CIP. Budget of 2.7 billion, capital 2.1, just a little shy of what we were this year. We do have some really good highlights in the operating budget. The goal here is to move to an all-day service on blue, orange, and silver at 10 minutes, which is a really nice improvement. If you live in Franconia, Vienna, or in the Ashburn area, the idea of getting a 12-minute off-peak train is now going to be 10 minutes. That is a big difference. This clock face idea of transit, really that consistency is really important. So we're really excited about that. There's also a selection of bus improvements, some in Northern Virginia, some in DC. We don't have any bus improvements in the Maryland side. We also have a little bit later trains in the Red Line and later at night. It's where we do most of our events, obviously Capital One, things like that, which also feed into Northern Virginia and Maryland. On the capital side, actually, why don't we move the next slide? Thank you. Operating budget, as I mentioned, there's generally how it's split. one of the things I want to highlight, just is we know how hard it is for you as local government to manage your budgets with inflation, CBAs, other factors. We've been very held to this idea of Metro for years, more or less at least since 2018, I guess 2019, of this 3% subsidy growth has been the general theme for Metro. And certainly what I heard loud and clear when I got here. We are working very hard to maintain that. We delivered our first draft budget to be at a 3% across the region. Maryland came back and said, hey, we only have 3% in the Maryland side. What that really meant is we had to lower the subsidy even more for DC and Virginia, just because the way the formulas work between rail and bus and paratransit. And mostly Maryland's costs are actually being driven on the paratransit side. They do paratransit differently than the way we do it all for you in Northern Virginia. And those costs are very high, whether we do it or someone else does it. It's just the reality, it's a very, very costly part of the business. But just highlighting that we are delivering a budget with new service, adding more capacity, continuing to do technology improvements, and we're gonna end up with a 1.8% subsidy increase overall across the 3 states. I will tell you that is not possible to do. It's not sustainable. So we have union contracts. We obviously have just retention and cost of living, let alone energy. Energy, our budget this year is definitely over $100 million on energy. And I think we all know the energy pressures we all face. So we're gonna do everything we can. I want you to know we take it very serious. It's all our money to manage. I drive the staff crazy on a daily basis about every dollar we can save. We've identified about $500 million of cost savings and avoidance since I become the GM. So we do take it very serious, but I just want to be honest, there's not a lot of stuff under the rocks left at Metro. And I think we got to be clear that if we don't manage to at least a 3% growth, eventually we're going to be into cuts. It's just not that's not a GM or board. It's just literally, it's an impossibility for anybody to manage against the inflation. The next slide is capital. Here, I just want to highlight, one more thing on the operating budget I want to highlight, and it's not in the budget yet, but there was really good legislation that just got approved actually late last night, THUD. And I want to really thank Congressman Womack is the chair. And he's actually an Arkansas member, a Republican member from Arkansas that is very supportive of Metro. And Congressman Hoyer, former leader Hoyer, we've been working since I literally came into this place, been trying to get security and operations money for special events for Metro. And we've never received it, never had any operating funding. The bill that passed, now it has to go to the full house, but it definitely passed, has $30 million for Metro for special operations events. So things like all the ones I just labeled. That is a big deal for all of us regionally, because that could help offset some police costs, overtime, extra trains, extra buses. So we've been working very hard. And I just want to call out, Metro is very apolitical. We work across everybody. That's our job at Metro. And there is really good bipartisan support on the Hill for Metro and the administration. So there's a lot of people up there that really are seeing the value of Metro, and we're going to work with everybody, try to get every dollar back to this region. On the capital program, I want to highlight, we're investing in new trains, we're investing in new buses, we're investing in second entrances with some of you in this room, Arlington specifically. We got up Bethesda as well. State of good repair or modernization, as I prefer to call it, on all of our stuff. Big radio program is just getting close to coming to an end, and we just cut over our whole public safety network on that. Really appreciate it, especially the county administrators and their teams. They've been great on all of that work. We're investing in video, and we're investing in asset management tools. We're doing a lot with AI, telematics, so we can get into much more conditions-based maintenance that is much safer, much more cost efficient. The big thing to highlight, though, as we move to the next slide is, it was brought up, red line modernization. So the red line just happens to be line 1 that we're going to do. It's the oldest line. It's 50 years. Some of you got a grand tour of going into an old signal room that looked like an kind of 8-track player. And I kind of joke with, Secretary Duffy's doing the same thing we're doing, which is if you look at air traffic control, it's Metro's old signaling system. So while air traffic control, I think everyone in the country agrees needs to be upgraded. We believe that all these old railroads also need to be upgraded. And it's very similar. It's old dated, looks like 8-track kind of relay kind of stuff. And we want to be into cloud-based streaming. That's what we're doing. And it costs money to do that, but we actually get an ROI out of that. One, we get a lot safer, we get a lot more cost efficient and a lot more reliable. Our biggest issues are reliability right now on our signaling system. We're still running really well. The other thing is we have an enormous amount of trespassers on our system, way too many. Yesterday, we had another trespasser that had a fatality at Pentagon. I think it's 7 fatalities already this year. We've had 4 trespassers, I think, this week alone. Trespassers are a big deal, so we want to do platform screen doors, fully automate our trains, and that is not anti-labor, it's not anti-union, it's not anti-employee. Lots of systems all over the world use employees differently during these systems. So that we haven't figured all that out yet, but there's likelihood we'll have people be on board trains to do some troubleshooting, customer service. We'll still have to figure all that out, but this is certainly not about how do we just get rid of hundreds of employees. It's how do we make a true world-class system? And this is the world standard everywhere there really is. And that's what we're trying to catch up to. You go to the next slide and it just highlights again, sorry, I just rolling here for time. Signals, fleet, station, platform screen doors. On this, I want to highlight, last Friday, Metro formally submitted to the US DOT FTA our asked to enter what's called the Capital Investment Grant Program. That is a big step. The last time this region tried to enter CIG for a big project was the Silver Line. Think about it, Silver Line Phase 2. Oh, no, Phase 1. Right, yeah, that's right, Phase 1. So that's been a while. And that now, we got to work with them. There's a big environmental, there'll be SHPO, all those process. We are going to try to move this though expeditiously as possible. One, the faster we get this done, we get all the benefits of safety, efficiency, reliability. 2, the longer it takes, the more it costs. And the faster we do this, the more then we can work on the Rosalind to Stadium Armory capacity issue, which you all know very well. And when we solve that long term, we get a lot more trains coming through that system. I think I'm getting very close here. The next thing I want to highlight is DMV moves. Some of you in the room, thank you for your participation, about 1.5 years worth of DMV moves meetings. It called for to finally, for the first time ever, have a true dedicated, sustainable funding source for Metro. We started at about $700-800 million. The agreement around the group ended up being $460 million, which we know we can live with. That'll allow us, but it has to grow at 3% a year. And that predictability will allow us to run a bond program that will, for the first time ever, allow Metro to think about its fleet, its facilities, its workforce and technology, all in a business plan and versus these roller coasters that we go through. So where we are with that right now, I know we have a senator, pressure on him. We're waiting for the Virginia budget to come. I think everyone in this room, what's the Virginia budget? We remain optimistic. Actually, we are. Sorry, I didn't see a delegate down there.
3 delegates.
That's right.
Wow, you're prioritizing lesser body.
I'm sorry. I'm really looking. I'm trying to pick through. But we're still remaining cautiously optimistic that this will get done in the budget. And we believe that the other things are going on, but the Metro topic, we've been working very hard with between the administration, Senate and House, especially leadership, to really get that done. DC is doing their budget process. It's not over until it's over. So I know that they're working through their budget process on that. And for edification of everyone, we got a letter from Maryland. Maryland sent us a letter from the Senate President and the Speaker, all saying that this will be resolved in the next session while they do a large kind of holistic transportation bill and infrastructure bill next year. And they said they will look after the Metro commitment in the next legislative cycle. So it is so important that we get this resolved. So next year, we do not have to make cuts into the budget do that. Last thing is regional collaboration on DMV moves, also called for all of us to work closer together. I just reiterate, Metro stands ready to do that. Katie and I have had at least one conversation. We obviously got to do a lot of work on this. In my opinion, we need a lot more joint ticketing in this region. We should be able to take a VRE train and get to King Street with a remodel station, and then take our train to National Airport, and without thinking about 2 different ways to pay in 2026. I think that seems pretty straightforward. We should have a regional Kids Ride Free program. A lot of us believe, and there's a variety of things. Bike share, normally integrated to transit networks in a lot of places. People want to talk about ferry stuff. People want to talk about whatever. We are on board to help in any way possible, whether it's more joint procurements, whether it's helping with heavy overhaul of bus fleet, technology. I mean, we are obviously a big buyer of things, so if we can buy things and help smaller regional entities get lower price for some of that, or we manage it from an overhead point of view, we're happy. Whatever the region thinks that we can get more transit value for dollars spent, we're up for doing that. And then this is again, big thank you for just your continued, support of Metro. Many of you ride a lot. I see some of you once in a while on the system. This is a very supportive region of transit. I think most people know I came from Texas. Lots of good people, a lot of people believe in it, but here, this is a great region that believes in what we do. And we are trying to work hard to make you all proud of the system. So I hope I didn't destroy the agenda too long. I talk fast, so I try to get it all. But happy to take any questions, thoughts. I think you asked about RFK.
If you don't mind touching on it.
Yeah, sure. So RFK, obviously, a pretty big deal for this region. It's located in DC. Personally, I think it's a big regional thing. With that said, we are working very close to the district with the commanders. We've said publicly, we did a study that district helped fund. The current status of or level of transit is not going to be supportive enough for an event of that size. We're talking 70,000 people at that stadium. It's also building a big neighborhood in support of Kingman Park at the same time. So the two things we believe are desperately need to happen there are, one, we need to modify our current station. The station is good, no question about that, and I'm not worried about train movement. There's 3 lines that go through there. We have no problem moving people once we get them to the platform. We can run a train every couple of minutes, 8-car train set, take 1,000 people, next 1,000, next 1,000. The issue is we can't manage people in the station. So it's not built for the type of events you would have there, let alone, quite frankly, good transit to begin with. There's one elevator, it's at the other end and it's old. So that's not gonna work. So we need multiple elevators. To get an elevator shaft in that station, you're looking at just about 100 feet to put an elevator shaft in there. So that gives you a comprehension, like the new elevator we're gonna do in LaFont is somewhere around 25, 28 million for an elevator. When you dig through that type of infrastructure, that's what we're looking at. Now, depending on what you want, it's gonna be different, right? If we had to put one kind of at innovation center, it's gonna be a lot less because there's no tunnel shell and there's more space. But in Stadium Armory, it's gonna be an expensive endeavor on that kind of stuff. We want to build what we call an extended mezzanine. So if you've been to, say, Foggy Bottom, I like using Foggy Bottom as an example. You go downstairs, you can immediately go down, or you go further and go down. It might seem simple, but the whole game is that we need to spread people. We have a 600-foot platform. We need to spread people evenly. Train comes in, swallow them up, repeat over and over. We probably need a 3rd way to get into the station. And I don't mean maybe a full entrance, but a complementary way to funnel people into that main entrance. And then we can queue them topside. That's what we say, topside on the street level. So we need to do a real true renovation of Stadium Armory Station. What's really hard about that is we need to figure out how to do that while we run service. It's not gonna be a greenfield site. We run a train every 3 minutes in each direction right now at peak. So we can't do that. So we're gonna have to have targeted shutdowns. We have to have targeted single tracking, weekends. It's gonna be a really difficult project to get done in time for opening. The second thing we fundamentally believe needs to happen is what we call the gold line. We truly need a world-class bus rapid transit east-west in the district that connects to Virginia and Maryland. So the first phase we believe should be kind of the stadium to Union Station, maybe Benning Road to Union Station. We are talking about center running, full dedicated lane. That's going to be hard. Each street didn't get that for the streetcar, but Metro's position is that's the only way this is going to work. This is a conversation with DC. DC owns the streets. They own the parking. Are we willing to give up, a dozen parking spaces or 20 parking spaces for 10,000 people to move better? That's a decision that's going to have to get worked through. But it's the only way we're going to manage games, in our opinion, correctly. We need people on the red line to come into a catchment basin at Union Station and get all of those people, as many as possible, to take the gold line, because it will relieve them of not getting on Metro Center at Blue, Orange, and Silver. So if you're in Virginia and you want to go to an RFK event, you want as many people from DC and Maryland to go on a gold line for your own sanity. Because if we don't make these improvements, we think it could be a better part of 2-hour wait. It's just not fundamentally designed to manage the crowd. So we're working closely with district. They have to effectuate that deal ultimately with us. We said that we need an MOU, some type of MOU and contract. We'd like by the end of July on that. The time it's going to be a push. But I will tell you, unbelievable leadership by across the board and people we're engaging with, and people I think all know we need to do something to make this a world-class site. And I know, Women's World Cup is in the potential hunt. Super Bowl is clearly going to get announced one day. It sets us up to have big global events. And so from a regional point of view, it should become an amazing asset for us for a region.
So just to follow up, so an MOU, it's really a reimbursable agreement, right? That we're trying to get from the district, so.
Yeah, some form of that we have to, and so lots of details. I mean, fast and furious on this thing.
Ms. Christian.
Well, thank you. I learned a lot from your presentation. Thank you. I just wanted to say that I had the opportunity about a month ago to go visit the Metro Integrated Communications Center.
Oh, great.
Thank you very much, Mr. Potts. And I'm sure most people in here have already been there, but if you haven't, holy moly, you have got to go. I was so impressed. I was so amazed. Like, I felt like I was in a spaceship or a defense something. But it was really amazing, and the employees in there were just on point and very serious about their jobs, and they all had exactly what they were supposed to be doing. And it was just, if you haven't been, you got to go, because it was amazing. So congratulations on that. I think it was an amazing effort. I think it was an amazing concept, to do it in the first place, and it looks like it's very successful. So congratulations. I really enjoyed it.
Great, thank you very much. We would offer a tour to anyone. If you haven't been, we'd love to show you around. It's kind of the first in class in transit in
That's
many
right.
ways. It's like and Katie mentioned she was in Seoul. Seoul was here a couple months ago. They're building a new center. They want to come and see ours
Sure.
because they heard about it internationally. So it's the first I'm aware of where you really have everything in operations. We have communications in the middle of the room, internal and external. We have rail, bus, police. We have a fire captain. We have all of our maintenance, and then with the video unit and police, it's fully integrated. What
Like a
it's
NASA room. It's like
It's like the go, no go.
it's fundamentally changed how we do operations. So my big effort at this organization was to try to de-silo this one. This is the most siloed place I've ever seen. And when you're big, like we're 13,000 people, right? It's a big place, but it was very seen as a modal and I'm like, no, customer's a customer. And I think this is really, when we have an incident, the resolution of that incident now is so much faster. It gets rid of the fog of war, what's going on. We have such an amazing video system that it's fundamentally, like we have real-time video on our trains, real-time video on our buses. We can see stuff that comes in. People do a text, there's somebody looking, something wrong with this person. Just look at video on the train. We know it's, black blazer, blue shirt, and it's on the Jimmy. Yeah. And we officers hold that train, they pull in, officers are there, help Renee, kids that got lost from people visiting. Like there's so many ways that can reported smoke. Well, there's no smoke, or it's this, or it's that. It's we're really proud of that effort. So thank you for highlighting that. And again, we welcome, if anyone's interested, Frank will arrange and do a tour. And Kate, if you think there's value in MVTC doing a collective for a group, we're happy to, whatever you think is supportive.
Mr. Karen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, it's galactic, truly, and it's also a good piece of advice for all of us when we think about our own safety operations, etc., that need to be integrated the same way. Another thing, slide number 3, about the economic importance of Metro should be framed and sent to every elected official in the region, because it needs to hang somewhere so that people seriously, very seriously. Maybe slide number 4 in the back, because it's going to be more updated over time. Question on the 70% fare dodging. So I've been I know how tough this problem is. I've been asking also other systems, other professionals, et cetera. But one advice that I got, I mean, is try to figure out the demographics of who is actually dodging and why. I mean, you gave us already some points on, the economic, I mean, the decline of bus ridership because of the economic problems, especially with moderate and lower income jobs, et cetera. I take that. But do we know a little bit better, more in a more granular way our riders to begin to target that? So, for example, in London, in UK, they have been taking specific. They have tried to segment the system and focus on enforcement and surveillance, etc. They found out, for example, that systemic fare dodgers is about 2% of total ridership. Occasional ones about 17 to 18%, and once, I mean, very unregular ones is about 14%. And the rest is, they either don't, I mean, 45% they pay the fare, et cetera. But here, they were saying to me, I mean, the input that I was getting is that it matters to study the, in granularity, the demographics of those, because 70% is a pretty serious number, right? It's a lot of people to drive. I mean, I ride with one of buses and I see that. I see people just going in and not bringing and the driver cannot do absolutely nothing. So I'm beginning to worry a little bit whether we do everything we can, because just enforcement, enforcement works. We've seen that in metro. Also gates work, but we cannot put gates in buses, right?
Yeah, so, well, thanks for the question. So, we know, we have very granular data. We know by route, generally geo-targeted, and so that's where we do most of our enforcement. We have a combination of a variety of things related to this topic. So within the 70%, there are people that we wouldn't generate revenue from, but they're not tapping. So we don't so there's kids ride free that once in a while they'll tap, once in a while they won't tap. We're not gonna generate revenue of that, but that's in the 70 because there's no other way to bucket that without doing an extensive look. Kids under 5 are free in our system. We don't know. Is that 1.5% a day on the bus as kids under 5, or is it 6%? They're in the 70s, right? There's no other way to, it's either you pay or the big group of over here. So we are slowly but surely trying to break this down. Our enforcement, I'll just tell you, Virginia, we have the least amount of problems in Virginia. So the enforcement side of Virginia is less. Right? Now, we have targeted areas. Roslyn, Pentagon City, probably our 2 biggest areas that we do the most enforcement on. Maryland is actually worse than DC. And in DC, it's very much the further east we go, there's more fare evasion than west. And you can see it on a route that goes across town, usually around 14th Street. It just changes. And then there's a variety of reasons for that. But so that's we have the data. The larger issue is we also have this inconsistency, and we should own it as a region. We've created a mess here. Right? There's people in this room that voted to make, and again, I'm not judging the vote, but I'm just being honest, that made their local system fare free, that pick up people at the same bus stop that I'm now trying to enforce, and if they don't follow the cops' rules, they take them up in handcuffs and arrest them. What would be done? Right? Like it's so you can't. We've been doing this big campaign with all this management stuff. There's people in Montgomery County, seniors, that said, we were told that we didn't have to pay because they got subsidized cards. Yeah, but you still got to tap because we got to get the revenue from them. And it's all this way. Region operates this way. So like in Arlington County, you're not fare free, but I would argue you have no idea what your fare evasion rate is. And there's no one doing fare enforcement. And in Fairfax, it's the same way. Fairfax PD is not going out and doing fare enforcement like we are. So let alone then Alexandria is free, Montgomery County went free, Prince George's went free. How is a read? Katie's trains cost money, our trains cost money, Purple Line's gonna be what? Mock trains are a different thing, Loudon's half free, half not. I don't know. It's true. I'm not trying to be there. I don't know what to do. We as people have created a mess, and we should figure out what we're doing as a region.
So this means that we have something to do here on this. I mean, we co-own the problem, right?
Respectfully, very much, yes.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what Metro, outside of enforcement, the other thing is like, we should have a unified ticket for the region.
Oh, yeah.
Our police carry out 3 ticket books and the penalties are different across three states. It doesn't make any sense. We don't have the ability to use civilians to do fair enforcement. We should have a unified like, if you went to Seattle, lots of other places, when I was in Austin, we did that. So that way I could have, not all things need a police officer to do. But right now, my only option is sledgehammer, police. Because I don't have the legal ability to have a classification of employee. I can't even use special police officers. Can't use contract staff, I can't, so like, we're operating with 1 or 2 arms side by side, like, we should have and DFB Move said, we should solve this. So we should, and I guess, I don't know what, Metro staff certainly isn't able to do that, except say, we will work with anybody and coordinate all these programs and share. And to be honest, like, I think everyone gets caught up on the transfers and all this other stuff. If I can be honest, it's a rounding error, it doesn't even matter. Let's say all of our transfers across all the systems counted for $1 million a year. Who cares? Our budget's $5 billion. Katie's got a budget. Fairfax County got you add them all together. The meetings that we talk about, it costs more than the transfers that we're talking about. So I don't know. So I would welcome anything that you all think that we could do to help support the regional conversation.
Well, what's the cost of the evasion right now, more or less?
Cost?
Yeah, how much money?
You think it could be upwards of 50 million?
So.
But I'd also argue back, what's the cost of evasion for all the systems that are fare free? No one says that there's a cost to that. It's just paid differently. So that's what I'm saying. We should use the same terms and agree to what the policy that what policy goal are we all trying to work towards?
Policy goal is to get as many people using transit as possible, and so on that note.
Yeah.
I think, I wanna go to Mr. Stork and then to Mr. Bierman, was that okay? We'll go to Mr. Stork. Did anybody else have comments, questions? Okay, so Mr. Stork, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you, Andy, for mentioning the albatross and how all had for.
Ceremonial sledgehammers one day.
Maybe we ought to have just a group, sledgehammer bash there or something.
You guys it in the budget, 10 million.
Yeah, that's right.
Paul's been working this really hard and I appreciate every bit of that, and we will find a way, but that's the start, sledgehammer, and then how do we build up, which in your presentation, Metro Impact by the numbers, you had down 1,490 residential units built on Metro property since 2022. And I was thinking of really the opportunities that may be available. I know VRE, Katie, we've been talking about what's the potential, if you will, around a VRE station. Has Metro done a similar kind of study? What's the potential? And I realize you could go crazy on it, but maybe there's some reasonableness, and maybe it's just start with what's entitled right now. And then, I think we all know that housing is our #1 issue in terms of growing this region, et cetera. And we know that legislature has been really pushing that hard for the right reasons. We know that we've been pushing hard, at least in Fairfax County, and making incremental improvements, but we see Metro really as one of those areas. DRT line, of course, will be a good way to feed it. But have you all taken a look at that? And is there some data or numbers around that we could use? And maybe if nothing else, the VRE, when we have that conversation on retreat, that might help us do that better.
Sure, great question. So we have a really sophisticated real estate program. When I got here, I was actually blown away. I would argue the most sophisticated one in the country. So I have nothing to do with me. It's just now I'm kind of the steward of it. There is a lot of detailed work in there. We've done a lot of development deals over the last few years and really trying to activate this idea of housing and mixed use at stations. So we have a lot of stuff. So Greg could set up maybe a meeting and we could Nia Rubin is our head of real estate. Yes. That's how good the question was. We got meeting scheduled.
So,
That's right.
the real estate, WMATA's real estate experts are coming to our WMATA committee meeting 2 weeks from today.
Okay, so we'll make sure that
and all are welcome to attend.
that she'll have some of that theme. So something that you might all want to consider locally, and you all have your individual politics and policy goals. So something that's worked well in Montgomery County is their abatement program. So the only reason some of the big developments are happening in Montgomery County, I would say in our opinion, is the abatement program. So North Bethesda is hundreds of millions of dollars of development, and it's because the county council did that. We're currently working with DC. DC, we put a letter of support in, and there's a process going on right now debating abatements on development near Metro. And
I'd be pleased to know that Huntington now has that, and we're working to get something rolling.
Like Aaron, that you might have just said, so that is obviously a tool. Our new SVP Government Affairs, who many of you know that unfortunately I didn't introduce publicly here, but we did upstairs, Katie Crystal. Let's just say she lived this pretty aggressively in Arlington, probably why she's not at this table. We know it's a hard thing locally sometimes, but if there's ways that you think we could take some arrows, just let us know. It's the right thing to do, so we're happy to jump in and be the biggest partner we can on all this stuff. Yeah, but happy to share all the information. It's a pretty sophisticated real estate program.
In cross marketing, 4th of July, we have a great VRE training. I know Katie mentioned earlier.
I heard that. I didn't,
and
I'm scared. Should train still.
We should be cross marketing, whatever. I mean, obviously VRE, Metro, et cetera.
Yeah.
Great way to see.
Well, my office looks out at the VRE platform every day, and I love seeing it crowded up there every day, so.
Thank you.
I think Mr. Snyder had a question.
Yeah, just one quick area that I'd like to engage in more discussion with Metro and Bus Rapid Transit and how we move forward with lines that are just on a map now, and particularly Route 7. So it's nothing we need to go into detail tonight, but I'd like to engage with Metro on how we move forward from lines on a map, just like we did with the Silver Line, rapidly than that, move from lines on a map to real BRT service.
Yeah, great point. So I just got back from vacation last night, but my last meeting before I went on vacation was specifically about this topic. We want to move this topic pretty assertively here. So Kate and I were just talking, trying to get some more meetings set up on this. I think it's a region, well, one, DMV Moves again called for us to do this. And it said, here are the 6-8 obvious corridors that we need to move to make some version of rapid transit. I guess one of the challenges we have again is a region of inconsistency of what we were willing to call BRT. So what some in the region will call BRT, Metro would not label as BRT. A bus every 10-15 minutes is not going to be BRT for us. It's not by that logic, we'd have 70 BRT routes today. So it's just not kind of what we believe is a true definition of BRT. We also don't believe that dedicated right of way needs to be everywhere for really great bus lanes. So what I think we'd like to work on with you all is how can we do incrementalism towards perfectionism? And so what are our top corridors? Route 7 is the obvious one that needs to move along. And is there a kind of crawl, walk, run, but making sure that we're all moving to the ideal state? And so I think the bus right now is about a 12-minute frequency, I think, on that route. So like the next step should be, well, what does 10 minutes look like? Before we try to acquire a piece of property and build a lane, what does it look like to run a bus every 10 minutes? Then what does it look like to run a bus every 8 minutes? And maybe at 8 minutes or 10, we're trying to do targeted signal priority or queue jumps or up 2 blocks of dedicated roadway that is the biggest pinch point. And then from there, what does 8 minutes or 6 minutes look like with more dedicated roadway or something like that? So I think that's where we want to come at it, which is what does this program, like, let's not wait 8-10 years to say, let's build this thing. Why don't we start next year and say, this is going to be better, and the year after it's going to be better. And if we do that, ridership will grow. And by the time the hard stuff happens, the ridership will be way bigger. And the obvious thing will be, we need more dedicated roadway because ridership went from 13,000 to 20,000. And now we need to figure this out. So that's what we would like to do with it all. And I'm pretty sure Kate has similar philosophy around that. So.
If I could, Madam Chair, and so one of the things I know that WMATA was successful in applying for the commuter choice program to increase the frequencies on that route. And so pending approval by the CTB later this month, that will be able to happen as soon as Metro can make it happen. I'm kind of looking to my team as the frequencies, they're going to go from 12 to 10 or 12 to 8, but specifically commuter choice funding being used to increase those frequencies with the exact same idea. So this is obviously, I mean, we've obviously talked a lot about Envision Route 7 here. We even have public engagement right now. The things that Mr. Clark's talking about, it's perfectly in alignment with what we've been imagining. And so I do think, I also have an understanding this administration is very interested in this. So I think that there's some incredible opportunities to continue to move this forward. And the fact we've got a fantastic bus route on there and it's making it better. And so that's something that we're very focused on, so.
Okay, yeah, kind of to the chair's point, how do we get more people? Like a brand new bus is gonna cost us, I don't know, 1.25 million for a 40-foot bus, give or take. Let's get as many human beings on that as possible. It's the way we kind of look at it.
Gives me an opportunity to invite everybody to Alexandria on June 9th, open house for Envision Route 7 at Burke Library. So if you are interested in talking more about BRT, NVTC will be there.
Yeah, thank you.
So mentioning that, with that, I know we could probably continue this conversation. I do want to lift up 2 weeks. The WMATA committee will be continuing a lot of this dialogue on real estate, fare evasion, other conversations. I want to thank Mr. Clark so much for giving us his time and enthusiasm and the work that's been done, and our pins, our 50th anniversary pins. Make sure to get yours. Thank you so much, truly. I mean, I think it's a real point of pride. I think it's become a real point of pride, the recovery and the growth. And the point you made tonight, it really rang true with me, this idea that like somebody who might never really ride the subway in their lives will come to DC in some point and ride the metro. And that will be their impression and experience of sort of public transportation. So I think that's a valuable lesson for, you know, how we talk about it and how we invest in it and how we grow. So thank you so much for your time, for being here. And with that, you're welcome to stay and hang out. We're going to move on to the Mr. DeFerrante is going to next lead us in the chair of the WMATA committee report.
I have a brief report that has been foreshadowed by two people already tonight, which is that we are having a WMATA committee meeting upstairs, 2:30. We will talk about real estate. It's also going to be joint with our legislative and policy committee. There is a possibility that there will be progress on the budget in Richmond, possibility. And so MVP staff will also report on the performance and condition of Metro, which is a report we do every year, and all commissioners are welcome to. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir, for that brief and concise report. Up next, we have our legislative and policy committee, Chair Aguirre, to give us his report.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. We continue to monitor the status of the biennial state budget, which has not yet been finalized. The House plans to reconvene on June 18th. And the Senate will reconvene on June 22nd to work on said budget. Of critical importance is whether the state will provide funding through another 2-year fix to help cover WMATA operating needs. Operating funding was included in the House version of the budget, but not in the Senate version. If left unresolved, our jurisdictions will bear a higher funding burden. Staff continue to track this issue and advocate for our funding need, particularly in the Senate. I also want to note that the committee will be focusing on a new topic, statewide General Assembly mandated studies. This will be a recurring agenda item throughout 2026, focused on the status of various transit-related studies that have a relevance to MVTC jurisdictions and regional transit providers. A summary of those studies is in your materials, and there are no new updates at this time. So now I will turn it over to our legislative liaison, Ms. Amy Perrone-Seibert, provide an update on the biennial budget and other activities in Richmond, and she is actually here in person.
I know, we came up, and actually I brought the rest of my team too. So I know Jenna Foster's here in person too for the first time. He joined our team in January. Henry Watkins is here, who's been with me for about 2 years. And so we all came up in honor of the fact that we hope that their budget is the same. So here we are, just to remind everybody at the table what we've been working on. But I honestly don't have that much to add. I think you quite honestly covered almost all of it, Mr. Chair. And so I think what I'll say is, you know, I appreciate all the General Assembly members who are here and who have been continuing to advocate for WMATA, VRE, and all the funding that we need. And I know that the localities in this room are also very anxious to make sure that the operating money is in the budget. And, you know, we do hope that it'll end up in the final budget. I'm slightly optimistic with the fact that we have a new forecast that had some more money, so hopefully it'll be a little bit less tricky to get all the details worked out in the different pieces. So I will not put any of our delegates or senators on the spot, but obviously we are, like I said, we know things are moving. There should be some meetings in the next week. And we'll hopefully have some more answers soon. So happy to answer any questions, but.
I'll just tell you that I'm going to Richmond tomorrow.
Some heads.
Today.
Right, okay.
All right, well.
I'll have some papers for you before you.
Any other members of the General Assembly want to volunteer other optimistic tidbits? We're all- I see smiles, but no further comments. All right. Well, are there any questions for Ms. Parent Steinbach and her team about sort of the legislative update or the budget process? I'll mention, because it sort of didn't come up earlier, but just we were in Richmond together last week. Executive Director David Tice and I and Amy and her team and myself sat down with Secretary of Transportation and his team for just an ongoing conversation that is very transit supportive and very eager to see a solution. He emphasized, and we emphasized that the operating side for WMATA has to be resolved, especially for those of us who are local electeds and know what that would mean for our property tax rates and our sales tax rates if it is not. And so we emphasized in very real dollars what that would mean to our, individual households. But I think, we know we have sort of an ally, I think, in Richmond for transit and for the issues we face up here. And we'll keep advocating on that front. So thank you for the update and good luck in Richmond. With that, we're going to move over to Ms. Mattice for her TSDAC update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so the Transit Service Delivery Advisory Committee, or TSDAC, did meet this past Tuesday. I get to spend an awful lot of time with lovely amount of time with Director Zimmerman. So this is a continued conversation about changes to the Merit Operating Assistance Program, and that's the way that our localities get up to 30% of their funding. So this is obviously a very important conversation. And also some changes to the Transit Ridership Incentive Program, which is actually one of the programs that our localities have used to support fare-free transit, as well as our BRT, Richmond Highway, et cetera. And so just to give, I think it's fair to say in the model of team development, I think we've had a couple of months of storming, but I think we actually are really coming together and are really moving in a productive direction. There's still not to continue even worse analogies, the sausage is still being made. But the engagement, and truly I want to share this, the engagement that all of your localities, the jurisdictional staff on this has been absolutely fantastic. It's the only way that I can actually represent what's going on. We have a lot of focus meetings before and after my representation on TSDAC to hear from all of our localities. So I think we're really moving in a positive direction. That again is both on the formula that's used to allocate transit funding, as well as this competitive program that many of our localities are very interested in leveraging for other innovative things. So that's going to be moving forward for further discussions in the middle of July. I do know that DRPT is going to start doing briefings to CTV members in the summer. So obviously coming to a place that they can be sharing a spot before official public comment, before it's presented to the CTB for deliberations and decisions later in the fall. I'm sure this is all in your report, Madam Director, but I think we've actually really come a long way on those conversations. So I think things are coming to a better spot on that. And so I'm happy to take any questions, but I think we're, again, a lot better than we might have been 2 months ago.
Any questions on the TSDAC update?
I would just plus one, just to thank your local transit agencies. My staff has met more than once with every transit agency in Virginia on this effort, and folks have been participating not only in the meeting, but we've been doing workshops. We had sessions at the VTA. We are trying to be as transparent and in working in partnership on this. Our goals ultimately as a state with this formula is to lock in something that will be reliable, stable, very transparent, so agencies won't be wondering year from year what they're getting on their operating. We want to actually be able to say this is what you can anticipate, at least as your base for the next 3 years going forward, so you can program with that as a transit agency. And we want to be really clear of, if you want to get a bonus, if you want to get those extra credit points, here's what good performance looks like. And we want to be able to reward those agencies who are making those efforts to grow ridership, have more operational efficiencies, and improve the customer experience. So very much appreciate, the executive director has spent a lot of time in many long TISDAC meetings, but also just again, it's been really incredible, the involvement by all the transit agencies. So be sure you're thanking your local folks there at PRTC and Fairfax County and Art and the Q and Loudoun County and anyone else I'm missing there from this region. So.
Thank you, Ms. Zimmerman. Kate, did you want to move into the federal update?
Yeah, happy to do it. I do know that we have experts who may know even more than I do on this. So I always put that caveat as I look to sort of two sides of the rooms who folks do a lot of this in their day job. But in May, the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee did approve what's called the Build America 250 Act. It is a 5-year surface transportation reauthorization package. And they're hoping, this will look to those who follow this a lot closer, for a summer floor vote, which will be very ambitious. But keep in mind, of course, it takes both the House and Senate. And so obviously we're waiting to see what's happening on the Senate side for what goes on. But in general, this is highways, transit, and rail in that package. It's a roughly $580 billion package. And the challenge, of course, in all of this is always how things would be paid for. The proposal does include remember, is to establish a new annual fee on electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids as a way to fund the Highway Trust Fund. That is already getting a fair amount of pushback, but that is how they pay for on this. But the reality is this a number of things, especially on the rail side, and this is sort of the passenger rail and track side of things, would be subject to annual appropriations every year, and that's a very risky endeavor. In general, when it comes to the transit programs, and keeping in mind that is WMATA gets capital funding, VRE gets capital funding, OmniRide gets capital funding. Several of our transit systems have competed in discretionary grant programs from that transit program, but it very much keeps the same structure of formula, but does have, some sort of policy changes within there. Some of the big changes were supported by the American Public Transportation Association, which is actually about streamlining and making it easier to get public transit projects through the pipeline. So those are found in there, as well as several sort of operational, sort of a little bit more wonky things about formulas for smaller systems. Another thing that's of great importance to us, it does include the state of good repair funding that WMATA gets. That's above and beyond. That's $150 million a year that the federal government provides, and that's unique to WMATA. No other system gets that. But I think that we're very mindful, just like any of these other things, it's a dollar amount that never is growing. Versus, and so that $150 million, that was actually the level in 2009 when it was first passed. And I know, as we've talked about with the DMV moves and our own state capital dedicated, if you make a fixed dollar amount, the buying power of that is obviously very different. But that is what's in that bill right now. As I said, I know I've got a couple of our commissioners who do a lot of this in day to day. So I don't know, Delegate Lopez or Mr. Letourneau, if you have other things you may want to add to that overview of the federal space.
I'd be fascinated to see what the Senate does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what the House does is performative.
What?
The one thing to watch is just the Railroad Safety Act stuff provisions that were added are not supported by House leadership. They pass out of committee, so it's gonna be interesting to see.
Is this the provision that you have to have a minimum
This is
of?
the JD Vance bill that turned into somebody else's. Essentially, it's from the Palestine, Ohio train accident, although the provisions don't actually address any of the NTSB recommendations, but so there's just it's complicating things a little bit with the floor time.
Mr. Bierman.
So I was hesitating to talk about this, but I spent the day on the Hill doing transportation advocacy on behalf of Fairfax County. And a lot of the stuff that we were advocating for is stuff that people even here don't represent Fairfax County care about. The first thing was that we were advocating for increased funding for the Capital Investment Grants Program, CIG, because one of our biggest priorities is Richmond BRT. The markup that happened yesterday in appropriations still included 100 million for Richmond BRT. But the Capital Investment Grants Program was funded at 737 million, which is a drastic reduction from 1.7 billion. So we were advocating to see that go up, and we were mostly advocating among our friends. It's not surprising that James Walkinshaw and Congressman Beyer and the rest of them know exactly what's going on. But that was definitely something we were talking about. We were also talking about WMATA funding. They were happy to see that the House Appropriations bill included that 150 million in PREA grants. There was some concern about that, limited concern. Randy is very popular on the Hill, so I waited for him to walk out so he wouldn't think that I was sucking up, but he very popular, and frankly, when we got to Senate banking, we were in front of them as well, and we were with majority staff, and they were talking about what a world-class transit system WMATA is, and a lot of support on the Senate side. We were also advocating something near and dear to my heart, because I grew up in McLean. I would say crossings of the Potomac Ocean. Namely, we need a new American Legion bridge. We also need better transit across the Wilson Bridge. We had a good conversation with Congressman Raskin's office, where I was saying, hey, if people in Montgomery County want to call us, please. And we were also making the case to Congress Subramanian's office that there are people, it may surprise you, but there are people who commute from Ashburn to Bethesda, and they go across that bridge and they get caught in traffic every single day. And we were also talking with other folks about the Long Bridge. I know it's funded right now, but if anything happens, Long Bridge is really important. I will say that to your point, to Delegate Lopez's point, when we got to Senate banking, I mean, Senate is way behind the House on this. House has already moved a bunch of stuff. Senate banking oversees FTA. That's why, so really on the authorization side that we were talking about with Senate banking about capital investment grants, and about WMATA funding, not necessarily as much about the bridge formula, which, by the way, the bridge formula has gone up to 9.2 billion as opposed to 5.6 billion. That's very good if you want to see a new American Legion bridge or otherwise. But they were saying essentially they're just getting started on this process. So it's unclear where that's going to go. One thing that we did talk about that again gets you into the question of PREA funding, and Kate and I were sitting over here passing notes about PREA funding earlier. Which is that there were advanced appropriations in the Inflation Reduction Act. Those were very good for transit programs that take a long time, but the House and otherwise are moving away from advanced appropriations. Majority staff on Senate banking was saying that they think it's a big lift to get more advanced appropriations, but that makes a lot of our projects harder. So again, I think Fairfax County is pretty aligned with all the other counties on many of these issues. We were up there all day today, 6 meetings. I'm a little bit tired, but at least I had my Coke Zero. So I just thought I'd give that update to everyone about the key things that Fairfax County was working on today.
Hey, one thing to add, though, you're probably not going to see anything from Senate appropriations specifically regarding T-HUD or anything until after the elections.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So what you probably are going to see is parallel tracks going into 2027.
Right.
So just be aware of that, because it's like, even though you might have had good meetings on the Senate, on the House side and good numbers coming out, I was curious, did they give you any specifics about WMATA funding out of the Senate Banking Committee?
Not yet. And to your point, it's far away. This was very early in the process. We had a good meeting, and we talked about good stuff. And to the point earlier that Supervisor Stork was making about building around Metro, we were actually, when we were meeting with majority staff that had helped work on the Road to Housing Act.
So we were talking about the work that we've done about trying to develop around transit stations in Fairfax County, of course, in Arlington, of course, in other places. So that was a good conversation. We had receptive discussions. I mean, look, the guy we were talking to probably helped write the Road to Housing Act. Did. So that worked out well for us. But yeah, it was, I think it was a good day and, you know, take a good day over a bad one. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the update and the advocacy for sure. I think it's valuable that we, you know, attack this as many ways that we can and lift that up. With that, Kate, is that wraps up your report? I'm gonna swivel to my left here to the Program Advisory Committee Chair, Dahlia Palchik, to give her report.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I will try to be extremely brief. Last month, the commission approved the FY 2027-28 commuter choice program projects, which I was very excited came up that there are the two. I think moving toward bus rapid transit, a little bit more frequency on 2 of our metro buses. And it's scheduled for approval by the CCB as part of DRPT's FY 27-32 SYP on June 17th, which is, we're in June, people. Somehow funding for those projects will then be available starting on July 1st. So very exciting work. This year also marks the 10-year anniversary of commuter choice. And we've marked the occasion through recent presentations to the Commonwealth Transportation Board and at the Virginia Transit Association annual conference. We're also planning to celebrate this milestone through our social media channels, our annual report, and at an event before the end of the fiscal year, detailed TBD. And then here's my flyer. Vision Route 7 BRT. We're currently in the spring outreach phase for the Vision Route 7 project, the southern portion is phase 4-2. MVTC, this outreach is specifically designed to hear from bus riders and others who travel along Route 7 with activities on and near bus stops, community events throughout the border. We invite everyone to join us at the Envision Route 7 open house on Tuesday, June 9th from 5 to 7 at the Ellen Coolidge Branch Library in Alexandria. And that is my report for the evening. I do just want to say I didn't want to let Randy head out, but I think it'll be interesting for us to continue to monitor the progress. You know, as we talk about making buses faster and more reliable, how do these community choice grants and additional, you know, speed, reliability impact ridership? I think it'd be interesting. I don't know if they're planning to study that, but I think it would be good for us to study increase ridership, hopefully, or not.
They are able, by route, they know what the ridership numbers are, so it'll be very easy for us to be tracking. Yeah.
Perfect. I have to say, I was looking at the MVTC dashboard. It is the most beautiful dashboard. Now that they've got Katie, maybe Vermontis will be just as beautiful.
Gauntlet Brown. Well, thank you, Chair Palchik, for the update. Any commissioners have questions about the Program Advisory Committee? Seeing none, we've already had the CEO report from DRE, so we're going to move right into our action items. Mr. Stewart, could you walk us through our action items?
I can. Thank you, Madam Chair. For agenda item 8B, we have resolution 2610, which will approve an operations and access agreement with the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority for passenger rail service over the Manassas line. The resolution will also authorize the DRE CEO to execute the agreement on behalf of the commissions. This operations and access agreement will replace the interim Manassas line commuter rail operations and access agreement with BPRA dated September 4th, 2024. Allows VRE to continue to provide commuter rail service over the BPRA acquired Manassas line. This agreement memorializes the current financial agreement arrangement between the commissions and BPRA. Next item, 8C, we have resolution 2611. I will approve an amendment to the purchase deposit agreement of the amended Manassas line funding agreement to clarify the distribution of the deposit amount across the 4 property interests VRE is purchasing as part of the Manassas line acquisition from the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority. There's more information in your meeting packets and materials, but basically the purchase price of Seminary Yard was reduced due to a reduction in the acquisition area. Proposed amendment to the purchase deposit agreement will not impose any additional financial requirements on the commissions, but will allow VRE to maximize federal funding for the purchase of Seminary Yard, which is anticipated to occur in June. And the last item, 8D, there's written information in your materials, meeting materials, if you want more details about VRE's agreement with Amtrak about the Union Station near-term projects.
Thank you, Commissioner Stork, for reviewing the items. Do commissioners have any questions about these action items? Though they, I'll wait. I propose that we do a block vote for the two of them. They're fundamentally related. Could I have a motion to approve the two resolutions?
Stork, so moved.
Second.
Who was the second? I'm sorry. Mr. Spearman's the second. Any further discussion? Thank you, Ms. Zimmerman.
Alrighty, thank you, Madam Chair. So the other hat, I'll put on my other hat. I am the board chair of the VPRA, so I will be abstaining from voting on these. But I do just want to say it's been a really incredible partnership between VRE and VPRA, and we as a state are very, very excited to have both of these go forward, and really excited about what the future can mean to have VRE really strongly operating on the Manassas line and hopefully moving towards more frequent service. So this certainly puts us on a more stable, reliable foot going forward, and just want to thank, since neither of them, well, we have a little VRE staff here, but just again, thanks to them, and we're excited to move this forward. So even though I'm abstaining, wanted to give it my strong endorsement.
No, I appreciate that. It's one of those moments that sort of sounds perfunctory and pro forma, but this is a big deal, and it unlocks sort of, 2030, 2050, and, significant changes in VRE becoming more of a regional, and being control of its own service, that future vision. So there's been a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
And then Ms. Underhill?
Aye.
She nodded, okay. And
Yeah, aye. Yes, sorry.
we hear you, thank you. And then Ms. Sizemore Heiser?
Aye.
All right, so the motion passes, thank you. And with that, we are going back to DRP Director Maria Zimmerman for her report.
Oh, do you need to do the agreement? Oh, no, that wasn't an action. Never.
We did them together, yep.
Excellent, excellent. Alrighty, so I will not go through the whole deck. I never will. I won't bore you with that, but I do encourage you, as always, to look at it. This is the deck that we share with the CTB. And speaking of the CTB, I do want to thank those of you, especially Supervisor Alcorn and others who showed up to speak to CTB when we were here in Northern Virginia in May. We had a great couple of days here. Thank you, Chair Bagley, as you mentioned, for being part of that. And it really was very helpful to hear folks from this region talking about to the CTB board members, many of whom are not from this region, about what is the value. I think we continue to hear, questions from CTB board members that are not from Northern Virginia about why are we putting so much money in Northern Virginia? Do people actually ride transit in Northern Virginia? And with the tours that we had and the meetings that we had, they were like, wow, there are a lot of people. We went to see Long Bridge and planes were flying overhead. Amtrak was going past, VRE went over past. And one of the members said, did you plan all this? I was like, I would like to think that we could, but no, that's just a normal moment here in Northern Virginia. So thanks for folks for that. We will be, as was mentioned, approving the 6-year improvement program in the June meeting. Stay tuned. There might be, it will still be one of those dates. We might have a shortened meeting, or it might still be the 2-day meeting. So check on that. If you were paying attention, that meeting is happening before we may have a budget. So we will still move forward to approve that 6-year program. If there are significant budget changes, obviously we would need to come back in July and make some amendments to that. So just keep an eye on that, but to let folks kind of know how that moves forward. I also wanted to note, we always give a shout out to local things that are happening with our transit partners. So we're excited to see Arlington's launch of micro transit in April, as well as OmniRide had some really great ribbon cutting stuff with their community college art or bus shelters that had local art as part of that. I also was in the report, I think it's page 5, we are moving forward with a number of the General Assembly mandated studies. There is one related to WMATA. There's one about regional consolidation. There is one regarding the labor provisions for transit. And then there's also a statewide TOD study, which I know some of you have had an interest in. We hope to get moving on that statewide TOD study actually either later this month or early in July. All of these have a very aggressive dates. So to our members of the assembly, boy, it would be nice since we're in June to not have something due in November, but we will do that if that's what you want us to do. So we will be moving forward. Again, we're working fast and furiously, and we'll definitely be working in partnership with NVTC on those. Last thing I'll mention, because I know we want to get out of here. Virginia Breeze, you may not all know it, but there are 5 inner city bus routes that all convene here or not 4 of them convene here in Northern Virginia. We are going to be running some exciting 1776 fare deals during both the Juneteenth weekend as well as the July 4th period. We are also going to be increasing bus service going from Richmond up here to Nova. But the inner city bus system connects a lot of colleges and universities. You can take the bus all the way from Bristol up here to DC. You can take the bus now to Virginia Beach if you want to go see the tall ships during the Juneteenth weekend in Norfolk. So just wanted to note that, again, appreciate everyone's help. We are working with Connecting VA, which is an app that DRPT supports to promote and connect all of the transit things that are going around the state for the Virginia 250 and all the events happening this summer. So appreciate the partnership with everybody on that. So those are the highlights. Thanks, everybody.
Any questions for Director Zimmerman? I'll just add in terms of like a setup, when we were at the train station, we literally had to ask the CTV members to move out of the way so that people trying to get on the train could walk by them. It looked like a setup. It was very cute. Well, thank you for the report and the enthusiasm. I do wonder with the phasing out of the penny, how exactly you're gonna get that 1776 from everybody, but on the app. All right, get on the app. Avoid the
It's
penny.
like they did back then.
Yeah.
You're trying for that.
Sounds good. Well done, sir. Yeah, well, thank you so much for the report and for being here this evening. Our last agenda item is the Executive Director report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just actually to follow on from Director Zimmerman, those DRPT studies, as she mentioned, NVTC staff will be working very closely with DRPT on those. And that is something that we plan on reporting back as Councilman Aguirre mentioned through our Legislative and Policy Committee, because a number of them have direct relationship to the way our transit systems operate up here in Northern Virginia. So we're obviously really appreciate the partnership with DRPT and tracking those. I also wanted to mention, we said it very briefly, but I had the opportunity actually at the CTV meeting earlier this month to give an overview of our commuter choice program. But it really was a larger conversation about how effectively transit pairs with express lanes. I was actually ended up being before Deputy Secretary Schul, who did a fantastic presentation on really how many more people are moving through, how many more folks are actually going on the express lanes because they're using transit and carpool and vanpool, that they're not even paying a toll. It's a really good presentation really to talk about how those things work very well together. We have obviously fantastic data from the 10 years of commuter choice, but holistically, I think it was a very good, I think very well received presentation to the CTB insofar that the Commonwealth is looking at other opportunities to do things like they did on 95 and on 66. So I did want to put that out there. We always have our newsletter, and actually talking about commuter choice, we have a nice spread of the history and some of the fantastic milestones, some great pictures of ribbon cuttings of people from the past, because it's hard to think 10 years ago. If you look at some of the folks, familiar faces who have since sort of retired from their job, but really started something in place that's really quite meaningful. So I definitely always encourage you to look at our newsletter and appreciate. I know it also goes out electronically. You've heard a lot about the other things we have going on. We always want you to come to events. We do have one thing that didn't get called out, but next Friday, we're doing a specific webinar on improving the rider experience, which is going to be fantastic. Our chair is going to be opening it up. We're going to be hearing from Loudoun County, Alexandria, and the city of Fairfax on some of the innovative things they're doing to get more people on the bus. So really excited to be able to offer that. And that's a webinar, super easy to join in, sort of while you're eating lunch next Friday, the 12th at noon. And as we mentioned, we have a number of different committee meetings coming up 2 weeks from tonight to this week. On the 18th is Program Advisory Committee, followed by the WMATA and Legislative and Policy Committee meetings. Those are upstairs. And just to sort of close things up, our next commission meeting, yes, is July 2nd. We know that is a long weekend. We know you all want to be other places, but at 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock for executive committee, we want you to be online with us. It's very easy, but we do need that quorum to have that meeting. We actually do hope on making it an interesting meeting that will really engage you, but not necessarily hold you for a super long time. But we are actually gonna have a very important orientation about the role of the commissions with VRE, because you are the co-operators of a train system, and we want to talk a little bit more about your role as commissioners, and the importance of your role in addition to the ops board members on that. We are going to be diving into latest updates about Envision Route 7, lots of conversation about that. We're going to have a focused conversation about that as well. And it was very handed up by Mr. Clark, but the DMV moves and the regional coordination activities is actually what we were going to be briefing everybody on, is the status of those and what are the things that are going on in there. So again, we're planning to have a presentation focused, but I think all of those things will set you up very well for the summer, because after July 2nd, you will get a break until September. So I do hope that everybody does come, turn on your cameras and be at that meeting on July 2nd. So other than the fact we have fantastic financial reports at the end, that is my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mattice. If I don't see any objection,
Sorry, go ahead.
wait, were you just going twice? So
Adjourn?
that's where I was headed.
Okay, I have one thing.
Please.
Sorry, guys. I need to change my vote on the May 7th meeting minutes. I actually wasn't here, so please put me down as an abstention. Thank you. That's all.
That motion still passes, I believe. Yes, with that, we are adjourned. I'll see you on the screen July 2nd. On the screen.